Hello, everybody. Welcome back to ListenABLE podcast. We're able-bodied idiot. Angus O'Loughlin, that's me, and my man Dylan Alcott.
G'day, guys. Good to be here.
Yeah, wheelchair tennis champion, ex-wheelchair tennis champion.
I'm retired. I'm washed up. It's actually quite nice because we're about to have, two very, very successful Paralympic legends in the same podcast, and you. What are you bringing to the equation here?
I can't say anything without potentially offending our new guest and our next guest.
Yeah, perfect. So
after we've become friends and you can understand our sense of humour, then maybe I'll be able to drop what I was going to say. But let's let our next guest introduce himself.
Hey, I'm Josh Sundquist. I'm not easily offended, so I doubt you would have offended me with that. I
was going to say 2 walking legs.
Oh, nice. I am a Paralympian, but actually I'm not only a washed up former Paralympian, but I never won like medals. I'm closer to the Angus side, I would say, of Paralympic stardom than the Dylan side. I was like literally, They took the top 20 men for the I was an alpine ski racer, and they were taking for the US team the top 20 men. I had a meeting with my coach, and I was like, assuming the meeting was to tell me that I didn't make the team because I wasn't that good. I mean, I tried really hard. I trained for many years, but I wasn't like winning races. And he's like, yeah, they're taking the top 20 men. I was like, oh man, like, well, what am I ranked? He's like, you're number 20. So it was like amazing, but I was like barely. Like it was like, oh man, like I don't know, probably someone got injured or something, and I moved up to number 20. So yeah, I barely made it, but like I got the uniform.
If it makes you feel better, I was the number 21 man picked for my AFL football team for the grand final. I got dropped for the big game and therefore didn't get to play. So it's nice to be part of a team instead of sitting on the sidelines. I can tell you that from experience.
Yeah, no, I feel very fortunate. I went to Paralympics. That's a fact about me. But I've also I was eligible for the Paralympics given that I have one leg. I lost my left leg to cancer as a child, and I've written some books. And I do some stand-up comedy, some speeches, make a lot of internet videos, the broad array of self-promotional activities that one does in our current age. And I just made a new TV show with Apple TV Plus, which is probably why I'm on your podcast.
I was about to say, you're about to forget about promoting the main reason you're on here, which I'm sure Apple would have been absolutely stoked about.
Yeah,
if you had forgotten.
I
That would have been good.
Greatly failed in being a guest if I did not mention the show, but I'd love to talk more about. But yeah, it's very, very exciting that it's streaming in over 100 countries, so including Australia, which is very, very cool.
It is indeed. Yeah, I've watched up to episode 8, the skateboarding episode, but it is available on Apple Plus. It's called Best Foot Forward. It is. My first question, I guess, for you is, you didn't go down the Jerry Seinfeld / Larry David option of having the actor who plays you as a child as your name. There is a slight difference. Was that a deliberate choice, or was it because you weren't actually playing you that you didn't feel that you could give your actual birth certificate name to the role?
Yeah, so you mean he has a different last name than I do in real life?
Different last name, yeah. It's Josh Dubin or Dubin.
That's right. Yeah, I think it was. I would say that was a decision that was made early on in the process, and really like before I was an active writer even on the show. So I cannot take credit for having chosen that myself. I think the reason would be because we're kind of skirting or walking this line of it's inspired by my life, but we're not. This isn't nonfiction. This isn't like a documentary about my life. And so I think it gave us a slightly more feeling of creative license to say like, yeah, he's named Josh, but it's Josh Dubin. It's not Josh Sundquist, which I think I guess gives people like a freedom. Gives us a freedom as writers to feel like less worried that people are going to come complain to me, from my childhood, like this isn't how it happened. Even so, lots of people have people are like, I don't remember that.
That cool in school.
Yeah, like you didn't. Yeah. No, like Josh in the show had 2 friends. You didn't have 2 friends. Come on.
Yeah,
I saw you.
You had 1 friend.
I saw you walking down the hall by yourself.
I was your only friend. Right. I was your only friend.
Literally, exactly like right. That's something like it's a children's show. So like all my people my age watch the show and they're like, cool, respect. But like my little cousins like get real into it, which is fun. And so I get like I'm texting with like cousins to send videos to their children. But a common question, they'll always be like, number one, they want to know about an elevator. In the second episode, Josh gets an elevator key and goes in the elevator, and then a bunch of other kids get in and hijinks ensue. And number one, kids always want to know, did you really get an elevator key? Like that's the most unbelievable part of the show, which I really did. That absolutely happened. And then also they'll be like, did you really have two friends? It's like, does that seem unbelievable to you?
That's so good.
Yeah.
Big flex, 2 friends.
Yeah. It's like, it was a big time.
Why did you make decisions to make a children's show? Like obviously you could have made it obviously for an adult audience and made obviously the jokes and that a bit of a darker humor. Yeah. Why did you go down the kids angle? Yeah,
well, to me it's more both. It's like I'm trying to make all the shows, and this is the one that Apple purchased and funded. So if you're a production company or Dylan, you would like to pay for the adult version of my life story, that pilot is currently available and floating around Hollywood. But yeah, for Apple, this show, this version of my life, this was like a thing where we wanted to, I think, fill a hole in terms of representation. And I think there's something powerful about being able to show children, different types of bodies on screen, right? Cause I've had one leg since I was 9, and there was nobody who looked like me on TV or movies when I was growing up. And really, there still is very few, but like we're working on that. So I think it's really exciting to be able to put that kind of representation for children who will then like grow up in a world now where there are different types of bodies on screens.
The representation part is massive, right? Especially one thing that I really struggle with is seeing huge actors sitting in a effing wheelchair that can actually walk, right? Like I don't think I can explain to our able-bodied listeners how much it hurts seeing Bryan Cranston, who's a great actor, play a role in a wheelchair. It's like, get someone in a wheelchair, right? Do you genuinely think it's getting better? Or is that your Hollywood? You're in it. Is that the Hollywood answer, or do you think it is?
No, it's a fair question, right? Well, here's why I think it's getting better, because we're having this conversation about it, right? Like the reality is 10 years ago, 5 years ago, it's like there was no outrage about it. Because I wasn't even thinking about literally this is just in the last 4 years, because 4 years ago when the production company first came to me, this was like the second time these my memoir had been potentially developed, and there was a previous iteration of it. It was very different, but in that version, it was like we took that production company and myself took it for granted. Like, of course, we would have to cast an able-bodied actor, because what studio would ever fund an unknown disabled actor to play Josh, right? I just assumed that's just how it is. And then this production company came to me 4 years ago, and they're like, oh, no, we can do that. And not only that, we are going to do that. That's important. And I was like, oh yeah, yeah, definitely. It's, and I think, so I'm so thrilled, that Apple feels similarly, strongly about it. So I think it's a very recent phenomenon. I think you still see a lot of vestiges of I don't want to call it specific shows, but there's shows that are network shows that are still on the air in the US that have been on for 5, 8, 10 seasons, right? And they might have cast an able-bodied actor to play that important role of a disabled character 8 years ago when no one cared. Now people care. And I like to think that stuff that's created now, that's happening less often, and people hopefully are aware that they will be punished by the outrage machine if they don't do it. Because to me, ultimately, it's first, it's inauthentic. Secondly, you're taking a role from you, right? You're Dylan's waiting in the wings. He's ready. He can play that role, right? You're a quad. You could have been that Bryan Cranston. So, there's the argument of but it only got made because Bryan Cranston is the lead and he's famous. I mean, it may be so, but then maybe it shouldn't have been made. That's kind of where I land on it these days. So yeah.
And it was there was a show about singing and dancing at school potentially, where there was a character in a wheelchair, and I'd watch that, and then the guy would just get out of his wheelchair and walk at the Emmys, and I was like, I can sing and dance. I can sing in my I can sing and dance in my wheelchair. Why do you do that? So and mate, kudos to you for like pushing that boundary whereby the young actor who gets to play Josh, who has one leg, that's going to be life changing, not only for him, but everybody who is an amputee who watches it. That's the whole point of it.
And I think, like I had a meeting with one of the main networks, like the head casting people a couple of weeks ago, just like generally talking. And they were talking about a show that they have that has a disabled character, with an able-bodied actor. And they were like, we know it's so embarrassing. It was cast a long time ago, but like if that happened today, it would just like, it would be it's unquestionable. It's like outrageous now. So I think we're in the midst of a pivot. So we've still got vestiges of the problem, and the problem will continue. But there's like I had that meeting because there's people who are actively looking for disabled talent to put on screen and behind the camera as well.
I think also, and exactly that person that you speak of exists, and I think that in the creator of Vince Gilligan, yes, is the creator of Breaking Bad, and obviously wrote, I want to say one of the best TV shows of all time.
Yep.
And he based the role of Walt Jr. on someone that he knew growing up who had a disability and had cerebral palsy. And so he was like, when the heads were like, oh, we've got an incredible young actor who's going to be great for this role. He's like, oh, cool. And tell me about his cerebral palsy. Like, oh, no, he's that good. He'll come into the audition room pretending to have acting as if he has CP. You'll never know. And Vince was like, no.
Yeah.
And then RJ Mitty, who we've had on the podcast before, got that role, changed his life. You couldn't imagine anybody else being in that role. And the authenticity of the disability comes through in so many moments that people with disability can pick up, because there are those small nuances that an actor, will miss out on because they don't have lived experience, that he does in those moments that are so important to the role to bring authenticity to it.
Totally. Yeah, no, I love that. That was one of the earliest good. It was like what, and it's like there's few, right? There's few series regulars on big shows with disabilities, and certainly fewer like 10 years ago when RJ was cast for that. And yeah, I know RJ is great, and what a great show.
Obviously an able-bodied actor can sit in a wheelchair and they're in a wheelchair. Mm-hmm. You can pretend you got CP. What if you got two legs? How do you fake having a leg?
Totally. So the main thing is like a lot of it's body doubles, right? So right, okay. It's like
just the B-roll leg shot walking through the school.
Yeah. No, it still happens, right? It still happens. Like because like I'm saying, it's getting better. It's not solved. Like we have one episode of Best Foot Forward where I'm very proud. We have 4 amputee actors in the same episode. I'm one of them. And the girl was like, the week before our show was like, she was working as a body double on another show where it was like an able-bodied actor was playing the two-legged person. Sometimes, so usually it's just like, you don't see their face when you see a shot, with their nub or some. Sometimes it could be like, special effect, like a green screen sleeve or a green screen like leg. But yeah, usually it's just a separate. Okay. Usually it's just a separate person, or it's like a wide shot, right? You see them walking along with their crutches or their prosthetic, but you can't quite see their face. It's like a stunt double almost.
Yeah. A friend of mine who was a Paralympian, Annie Williams, she got asked to be the one-arm stunt double for Charlize Theron in Mad Max, and she had to choose the Paralympics or that, and they just because she was like blonde, same size, Charlize Theron, they like just kept throwing cash at her because they're like, we don't have any one-armed blonde people that look like that. Like, please, we need you to be the stunt double. And she was like, nah, I'm going Paralympics, see you later, which I loved. You know what I mean? I was like, fair enough. Yeah.
Good for her.
We like to talk about, when people think about disability, able-bodied people think about disability, all they think about is sort of, not all, but a majority of the conversation is, how unlucky, or, geez, that's so sad to hear, I'm sorry. Yeah. For us, obviously, being a disability empowered podcast, a podcast that tries to educate people with able-bodied that, disability, Dylan loves his life and look at the incredible life that he lives.
Normalise it, for sure.
Absolutely. You've actually had some really... getting to know you through your online persona, researching for this. I love some of your stories, and I've wondered, obviously we're going to have your YouTube below for people to check out the full stories, but you have found some unique ways to make the most out of your disability, including your movie story is so funny. I know Dylan doesn't know it. Could you share that story about being young and an amputee?
Yeah, of course. And that's episode 7 of the show too, which you must have just seen. So that's a true story. Although we exaggerate for comic effect in the series. But yeah, it really happened when I was a little older than Josh is in the show. I was probably like 17. But yeah, I was with some of my friends at a movie theater, like in the parking lot, and we were smuggling snack items, in our pockets. Because I don't know, first of all, do you guys call it a cinema or a movie theater? What do you call it in Australia?
Yeah,
cinema,
cinema, movie theater, both work. Yeah.
In the U.S., it's like the business model of a cinema is like making money on the concessions, right? So they're outrageously expensive. Is it similar there?
Same vibe.
Yeah.
Popcorn's like $15.
Yep.
Exactly.
All right, great. Same thing. So all your listeners will know.
Mate, Australia's not that far away, by the way. We're not. It's pretty much the same country,
what
different
language
accent.
do you guys speak in Australia?
You went full American then. That was the most
Australian?
American you've sounded. You just went full America. I love it.
Dude, when I have my first book, Just Don't Fall, that was the inspiration for this show. There's an Australian edition, but like hilariously, as you probably know from writing a book, Dylan, like publishing rights are different, right? So it's like there's actually like it's an international version, and it is it's a different book. Like it's a different cover. They lay it out themselves, and it's as if it's the same legal process as if it was being translated into a language, but it's not.
And my translation is like, I write about my mum spelled M-U-M, and I had to reproduce the whole book because in America they spell mom M-O-M. I'm like, it's the same shit. Like, it doesn't really matter. It's so funny.
No, the thing that infuriates me is like, there's no UK rights have ever been purchased to my books. So it's like, it's so crazy. So it's like people in the UK can't go to their bookstore and buy any of my books. And it's like, because there's no UK version. Like, it's the same language. Get the Australian version. Get the American version. Either. There's 2 English versions already. Why would we need a 3rd English version for this other country? It makes no sense.
They imagine like someone sits on the tube in London, gets your book, opens it and goes, oh, which way am I meant to?
How do I read this thing?
Like, mom, M-O-M? Who is that? What's a mom?
What's a mom?
I've never heard of that. Anyway, so we're putting some like snack items in our pockets. I was on my crutches but I was wearing shorts. I always wore shorts when I was in high school, like all the time, as a lot of young amputees do actually. And one of my friends inexplicably had purchased a 2-liter of Coca-Cola, right? So I don't know. I'm gonna act like our countries are very different.
We do have a 2 liter.
You have 2 liters, same things. A lot of countries it's more like 1 liters are more common. So he's got a 2 liter. So I turned to my other friend named Judd, and I was like, dude, like I need your pants. So we need to switch pants. He's like, what? I'm like, just trust me, it's gonna be great. So we switch. He puts on my shorts, I put on his 2-legged sweatpants, and then I take the 2 liter and I put it inside the left leg where my leg would be, but there's no leg. And so it's where a thigh would be. And then I tie a knot in the pant leg underneath the 2 liter. This is a very difficult story to describe through audio only on a podcast, but your listeners can imagine. So now it looks like there's because my leg is cut off at the hip. That's the key thing to know here. I have no leg whatsoever on the left side. Now I have a 2 liter in place where my thigh would be, and a knot in the pant leg holding it there. So it's hanging there and just looks like my amputation is like at the knee instead of the hip. So I'm thinking, genius idea, amazing. It looks semi-realistic, although it's very saggy in the sweatpants. But then we walk, and we're like walking through the lobby, and it's just swings. It's so outrageously penduluming back and forth with every step. And I'm trying to like walk on my crutches as stable as I can, but it's still like wobbles really weird. And there was a security guard there who was, I had this very, because I think security guards generally, and especially back then in the movie theaters, like all their job was to look for people trying to bring in outside food and beverages, which is like clearly prohibited on lots of signs. And so I feel like he's looking at me, he knows, right? It's like there's something, this is not natural. Right, he knows I'm doing something, I'm smuggling something, but I just could see on his face like the tension, because he's also like, what could he do? Like, what is he gonna say? Like, is he gonna come over to this 1-legged child and be like, "Excuse me, I was staring at you, I was looking at your and then it's like your disability, your leg, your situation, I don't know." it seems like something's wrong here, right? It's like there's nothing he could say that would not probably result in him getting fired due to his insensitivity. So so he said nothing, and we just we smuggled the 2-liter into the movie theater.
What did he reckon? What did he reckon was in there that was swinging?
Oh, I reckon he probably picked the Coke.
Coke?
But once again, it's not as if you went for the full tracksuit pant leg, and then there's obviously a gap between where your knee and your foot should be.
Right.
So you knew there was like, you've got a disability, so that's where your real power was. He wasn't going to like...
Right, exactly, because it was clear, right, it wasn't like I was like hiding a leg in there. It was like there was clearly a disability. So also in his mind, he might be thinking, I don't know, maybe it's some kind of amputation, right? It's like... There are different types of amputations. Like, do you know, like what is it called? The rotoplasty, where you take like, you take your foot and then turn it around and put it where your knee is. Maybe it's one of those.
Or maybe it's like, just to keep your balance, it's like a pendulum.
Yeah, true. Or maybe...
Right, just a counterweight.
Maybe he thought you were...
It's how I walk. It's how I stay standing. It's like a gyroscope inside my pants, just so I never lose my balance.
Maybe he thought you were just extremely well endowed as well. Could have been that.
Could have been that.
It's quite possible. Yeah. Yes, and that would have been an interesting. That's what I should have said in response if he had talked to me.
Is there something in that second pant leg? Well, thank you for
Thanks for asking. Oh, yes, I'm very lucky.
Thank you.
Yeah,
thank
I'm very
you for
lucky.
asking. Yes, I'm very excited to be at the movies.
Josh.
No, and then I have to say in the series we do an episode about that, which I wrote, and we have a security guard. Of course, we have the security guard actually confront and talk to Josh, but the guy who plays the security guard, his name is Kurt Yeager, and he is an amputee.
Oh,
in real
I didn't
life.
know that. Cool.
So we had, because what I always wanted, because like I always thought like in the series I really wanted to do the reverse effect. Like I thought. It's always been the opposite problem where able-bodied actors are playing disabled people. Why don't we have a person with a disability playing an able-bodied character? So we and I thought it was hilarious because we take this amputee and have a character who is very uncomfortable with amputees. You know,
he's really acting.
Really awkward around Josh.
Him, you know?
Yeah, it's good acting. It's good acting. Yep. So that was fun.
I'm going to set you up for a lot of great stories coming up. But one thing that everyone needs to understand is that around October, it's a very special month for your followers and hopefully the new followers who are listening to this. Link below to go to Josh's Instagram. But Halloween has become a massive moment, honestly, for your career, right? Because you would have so many more...
You're not wrong. Yes.
And we have had one other person, a guest of ours, who doesn't goes to huge lengths, but not the lengths that you do for your Halloween costume. Can you give anyone who's listening some ideas of what previous costumes have been and maybe a tease of what's to come this year?
I'll just add this just to give you a bit of an Australian update because we are different. Halloween wasn't massive in Australia, right? But it has become bigger because I used to live in Chicago at the University of Illinois for 2 years. I couldn't get over Halloween. It was the one thing that like how much Americans love it. And I obviously found your Instagram and the lengths that you went to. But like it's becoming extremely big here. And I think
Especially
people
last like 3 years.
Yeah, people watching your Instagram will be like, oh my God, this guy. So you might even inspire people to get even more into it right now with what you say.
Wow, that's so interesting. That's like right now we're in the midst of like a Halloween boom.
So whack, isn't it?
Perfect time to come on and tell us about your costumes.
Yeah, well, totally. And I understand where Australia is right now because I myself was not allowed to celebrate Halloween growing up. My parents were very conservative and religious. And so we did no Halloween. So it wasn't until I was in college that I ever went to a Halloween party or wore any kind of costume. So it was like, it's only as an adult that I've started dressing up. And it's ironic given my childhood, how much Halloween has become, as you said, Angus, a part of my career. So yeah, it was not till my early 20s that I did this first costume, what has now like basically become a series that I dressed as a partially eaten gingerbread man. And that was kind of inspired by the character in Shrek, who has he keeps having his limbs bitten off. So I just got like a regular gingerbread man costume off the rack, so to speak, and I just cut the leg out. Super easy costume. I just thought like, this will be funny. This will make my friends laugh. I'll wear it to like some Halloween parties, and it did. People thought it was hilarious. And then 2 years later, my then girlfriend, now wife, Ashley, suggested that I dress as a leg lamp like from the movie A Christmas Story, which I had never seen the movie. Also, again, sheltered childhood. But I knew what a leg lamp was. So I was like, that's hilarious. So I made this costume where it was like a lampshade as the, which actually lit up, as the skirt, and then a fishnet stocking. And then, so these two costumes then together, someone took pictures of them, put them on Reddit, very popular. It's like 10 years ago now. And they just like blew up, and it became this like thing. People were like, oh man, this is like the one-legged Halloween guy. And I was like, all right, cool. I'll go with it. Yeah, that's me. What? Sure, I'm that guy. So then after that, I've just continued to do these costumes. Some of them are difficult to, I think, imagine.
I think one of my favorite ones is like you doing a handstand on your crutches and you like a flamingo with your foot. Is that right? But the skills to do the crutch handstand and your foot is the flamingo beak. Is that how I'm describing it? Is that right? I was like, that's the first one I saw. I was like, man, that's impressively athletic. Like to actually do that.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm very proud of that costume. It's like, it's so uncanny looking. It's like really looks.
Mate, I was like, what the hell's that? And I'm like, oh my God, that guy's disabled. I was like, that's sick. That was the first one I saw.
And also my favorites, Aladdin as the genie. So because obviously having one leg, that leg was the smoke that came out of the lamp.
Yeah, cool.
And so it was it was just like, it takes a second for you to go, oh. But the thing about it is just to understand, like we talked about this being part of, your career, and the build up now for it is, we're talking like 500,000 views on every Halloween video on your YouTube, because people are so excited, interested in the creativity that you go to. I've got a couple of questions around it. For one is, do you feel now a pressure around Halloween to outdo every year? And is there a costume that you wouldn't do?
Yeah, yes, there is certainly like some pressure around it. Because they've been really popular. I mean, like they consistently are just on the front page of like every website, many years, just across the internet, just have tens of millions of views. So it's certainly like what I'm most known for. And ironically, like I've gone in public, like wearing one of them, and people will recognize me more often with my face and whole body covered, but just as the guy, people will be like, oh, are you the one-legged Halloween guy? Or even by name, people will be like, are you Josh Sundquist? More often than just me with my actual face and body, which is probably the best kind of possible fame that you could have. But yeah, so there's definitely pressure associated with it. I had a lot of sessions with my therapist last year to work through releasing the pressure, doing some inner work. It's about the fun of the costumes. It's not about the views, etc. Combined with like last year, I did this microscope costume that I knew in advance people wouldn't like that much because my wife didn't like it. But I was like, I really like this idea. I think it's going to be very challenging to create the microscope shape. It was. People didn't like it that much. So in that sense, I feel less pressure this year, because like last year it was like, to be fair, like, I don't know, the video got like 10 million views on Facebook, which is a lot. But it wasn't like previous years. So in that sense, I do feel like less pressure, but it's still a thing that I want to keep doing, because I think it's really interesting. And I think it's a way, I like what you guys described, the effect of like looking at the costume and be like, right. It's like, and then to answer your second question, Angus, it's like, is there a costume I wouldn't do? Yeah, there's lots, like, these are the costumes people always suggest. Shark attack victim, pirate with one leg, guy from Monty Python who has all of his limbs chopped off. And it's like, guys, like, I'm already an amputee, right? Like, I'm not going to dress as an amputee.
Josh, I know.
I'm
Lieutenant Dan from Forrest Gump.
Yes, exactly, right? It's like, right. And I get it. Those are fun. There's nothing wrong with those costumes, right? That's fun. Whatever. I know if you're an amputee listening and you dress as a pirate every year and you win the costume contest at your local bar, like, good for you. That's dope. But for me, it's like, I want to do a costume that only I can do because I look like this, and celebrating the way I'm shaped as opposed to dressing as like what I already am. The other costumes that I don't do like grotesque costumes. Again, no problem if you want to do those, but I see a lot, like a number of amputees will do like, it's, I don't know, zombie blood, guts coming out of their stump. fine, cool. Like that's a cool, scary effect. But to me, it's like I kind of feel like with like costumes, I'm trying to normalize and give a level of comfort to able-bodied people who already sometimes have a fear and an association with the grotesque with disability, right? So it's like I don't want to exacerbate that stereotype and that association. I want to do something fun and creative that you wouldn't expect. And maybe that even makes you laugh.
Well, I got the name for myself as a guy that crowd surfs in his wheelchair at festivals. Mm-hmm. So I crowd surfed to Coachella.
I saw that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I was just.
It was on Reddit. I got like 21
amazing.
million things on Reddit or whatever the hell, however Reddit works. But I put it to bed, right? Because I was the guy that crowd surfs in my wheelchair. I was like, yeah, I'm not doing that anymore. Like, are you ever going to put it to bed and not be the costume Halloween guy? Maybe as you progress as an actor or whatever it is, or are you comfortable being that because of the normalization, as you said, of disability?
Yeah, I don't know. It sounds like I need to go to your therapist
hey,
instead of
I could give you a therapy session. That was just my own inner monologue, so we can do it together. Oh, that's good stuff.
Yeah. No, I got to figure out how to let go of all of the positive accolades that I'm used to from my Halloween costume.
Do you know why I put it to bed? Actually, in another reason, my arms were worth a bit to me playing tennis. So if I got dropped and broke my arm, I was screwed.
It does seem. Yeah. I will say that wheelchair crowd surfing sounds more dangerous than making.
Yeah, I was probably fair call. You know what? Fair call.
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe someday. But right? I don't know. I guess it's like as long as it's if it ever gets to a point where it feels like really arduous or like like really hard work or not fun, then for sure I'll stop. But as long as it's like seems like a fun thing that amuses me and amuses other people, yeah, I don't know. See how many I can do.
You don't want to be a one-trick pony as well, and you aren't. So that's what I mean. So you can always do it because you've got other strings to your bow in what you're doing. Same as what I end up doing with sport. I was like, yeah, but it's part of me. It's fun. I enjoy doing that, but I also enjoy playing tennis. You know what I mean? So you got a multifaceted brand, I think, which is helpful.
Yeah. It's part of the
shtick. I like it.
As this episode goes to air, I guess, as it gets released, it's the end of August. So we're about 5 weeks away. Oh, no, longer. You've got a bit of lead up time to Halloween. Are you already planning? Have you met with a costume designer? Can we have a sneak, maybe just a clue as to what potentially could be the next costume?
Yes to all. So, I mean, because I work with different costume people, depending on kind of like what the costume I'm trying to make is. Because they're custom built and require a very high level of craftsmanship that I don't have, and even depending on the costume, like one person might be able to make this kind, another person would make this other kind, and so anyway, the people who do these costumes are very busy around Halloween. So if you want to have an incredibly complicated costume, you have to hire them in like May or June. Like if you wait till July, August, it's like forget it, man. Who you're getting bottom of the barrel cosplayers to work with you. So I the guy who's making it, I sort of worked it out with him in May or June. So they take a long time. So the clue I would say is it is an object from the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
All right, I think I know what it is. I'm not going to guess though. I won't say it.
But I did a Marvel costume a couple years ago. I dressed as Baby Groot.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, I saw that one. That
at
was
the end of Guardians.
Oh, that was the quality of that.
At the end of Guardians of the Galaxy. Yeah, I love.
I reckon
that.
I've got it.
It's one of my favorite costumes.
Dylan's going to say it. We're going to beep it if it's right. So Dylan's going to say his guess. I promise you.
Nah, I just showed Angus. Okay. I reckon I've got it.
Okay, well you say it. I promise. Josh will.
Yeah.
I reckon you're going to go with.
What's your? You got it. That's it.
No, we didn't. You smarter. We didn't.
Nailed it.
That's a bullshit. That is a
Nailed
bullshit.
It.
So you're lying to us. We didn't get it. He lied. He's lying to us.
Okay. Well, this will come out.
Did I get it? That's not bad by me.
After Halloween, we will reveal it uncensored, but we'll even.
I reckon Josh is lying to us.
We'll even because we've got such great lip readers. We're going to even put a little censor across his mouth.
Josh is lying to us. I reckon he's being a smarter.
I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm not a good liar. No, it's a good guess.
So. I want to kind of lead you into a couple of more questions of stuff that I was literally during the week rolling on the ground laughing about. Some of them are featured in the show, of course.
You better be careful. Angus is going to come sit outside your house, mate. Hey,
Well-
you better. You?
Yeah, dude, I gotta look
Mate,
outside the
You know,
window.
if this wasn't proof that I was in Australia,
You gotta get like an international. Can you get restraining
can.
orders across
I'm getting a green card.
borders? Do we
I'm
have
the
like
lottery.
an extradition order for
I'm
restraining
about to become
orders?
his not favorite disabled person in the world. This is absolute bogus.
Dylan is cautious post tennis career about putting on some kilos and staying fit. He's still in the gym, etc. But you know, after that metabolism's been used to something for so long and gets a quick change, you can put on a couple of kilos. Fair to say.
Damn right.
You, Josh, are on the other end of the spectrum, and you've had difficulty the other way around because of your disability. Is that right?
Yeah, to be more specific as to what you're trying to lead me into. 'Cause I'm not.
Yeah, I was going to say that was him.
I'm leading you into
very
a health
vague.
professional, a health professional potentially being concerned about your weight.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, what are you talking about?
So,
I was the same.
I'll cut this to make you sound like you know exactly what I'm talking
yes.
about.
Oh, that's funny.
yeah. No, that's. So I was like, what is? Because I wasn't sure if you meant like fitness wise. Because like years ago, I won this fitness contest for called Body for Life, and so there's these very viral photos of me with a before and after. So I wasn't sure if that's what you meant. Anyway, so yes, your question. Great. I know exactly what you're talking about. Angus, and I'm so glad that you asked the question about the kilos. Yeah, so I was a couple years ago. My health insurance company here in California sent a nurse to my apartment. Like this is like not usually the way our healthcare system works. Usually it's like very you go to a doctor and like work through that. But this is like proactively sent a nurse to my door because according to their computer system, my body weight is dangerously low for my height.
Your BMI.
Straight away, I got it. Yeah.
The AI in the computer had been like, oh man, he's 5'10 and weighs 116, probably has an eating disorder. So she came over and she had like literally a printout from the computer that said I was potentially malnourished. And so she comes in, I wasn't wearing a prosthesis or anything, it was very obvious, right? And she's like, well, do you think that you eat enough
Are you okay?
calories every
Are you
day?
okay?
I'm like, look, you're like, I get why the computer thought this, but now that you're standing here right in front of me, you can see, like, I feel like we should be able to agree there's a better explanation for this weight to height ratio. It literally should have been that. It should have just been open, be like, you know what, never mind.
Wrong house.
I'm gonna leave right now. Yeah.
The other thing I was kind of curious to know about was obviously having you've lost your right leg. No, you've lost your left leg.
Left leg.
So
that's right.
You use your right foot and have right shoes. Have you found a shoe buddy, which is something we've spoken about with other amputees? Have you found someone with similar style that only has the need for a left shoe? And do you do swapsies?
Yes, indeed. Which took a long time to find, right? Because yeah, to me, it's like it's not just about swapping the shoes. You have to find someone who has the same sensibility that you do with shoes. Because otherwise, it's like if it's a bunch of shoes that I'm not going to wear, there's no point to it. But yeah, so like a little over 10 years ago now, right around the same time that I met my wife, who my soulmate, like SOU soulmate, at the same time, like literally 3 weeks later, I met my soulmate, like SOLE soulmate, right? Like I met both soulmates literally the same month, and I'm still with both of them. I'm married to my wife now, and my shoe soulmate, Steven, and I still swap shoes. It's an amazing love story. And yeah, he's awesome. And yeah, we just like, at the time we both collected Asics Tigers, a type of sneaker. I've gotten into Jordans.
Yeah,
recently,
I'm a Nike guy as well. Love a good Nike.
Dylan's sponsored by
Okay,
Nike.
nice. Yeah. So no, I was lucky to find him. It's hard. It's hard. People like DM me all the time. They're like, can you help me find a soul? I'm like, I don't know. I'm not like I've thought about making like a dating matchmaking service for amputees to swap shoes. But it feels like such a niche, such a tiny, for like, like the 25 people in the world who don't wear a prosthesis and are actively looking for swapping a soulmate. I don't know that there's a good way to pair people, but there are like odd shoe exchanges, as you probably know.
And our last question that we do, Josh, is called the bowl of uncomfortable. This is a question, we're all about normalizing stability. So we don't believe there is a question that should be uncomfortable. Of course, if you do find it comfortable, you don't have to answer, but we're all about, asking people with disability the questions that they get asked the most. So hopefully after listening to it, they don't get asked it again. This one comes from a person called Monique. And Monique says there's a photo of you, Josh, that's probably gone viral every couple of years. Now that's true, isn't it? It kind of always just keeps coming to the zeitgeist. It's not just you didn't go viral once; the same photo just keeps going viral, right?
Yes, I'm guessing this is the one about
Is the kilos.
Or this is what I
what
thought
I
you were
thought
talking about when you were talking
right.
about
It
the
is
kilos.
a photo of
Yeah.
you oiled up like Zeus, glistening, showing off a physique that makes Michelangelo's David blush. What was the inspiration? This is her question.
Thank you, Monique. Let's just pause.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Thank you to Monique for this very nice.
What's the
description.
inspiration for the transformation? And do you regret that photo because of the body image that it maybe put? I'm wording around what she said, but that maybe put a body image of a too high esteem for people with disability or amputees.
Yeah, interesting. So this was actually right after I was in the Paralympics, and sort of the opposite of Dylan's view towards kilos. As a ski racer, the more you weigh, the faster you go. Basically, like the way physics works is just like, because there's no friction in the snow, it's like you carry more momentum. So like you don't want to be like grossly overweight, obviously. But if you look at ski racers, just their body types, they're bigger people than most sports. So more like football players in that sense. So like I was carrying a lot of extra weight that I was about 30 pounds heavier than I am now. And so after I finished ski racing, I retired. I barely made the Paralympics. Like I said, I was number 20, nowhere near medals. So I was like, all right, I'm done with this part of my life. And so I was like, all right, I'm trying to lose this weight now. And so I decided to do this contest that I was aware of called Body for Life, where you take a photo and then like 12 weeks later, you take your after photo. And you could like win money if you have like the best photo. So I did it. And it was like, it was like a summer in between my senior and my 5th year of college. And so I had like unlimited time. And so I basically I read bodybuilding books and bodybuilding blogs and like became an expert in like how bodybuilders prepare their bodies for those like
Get in the
crazy
water from
photos
underneath the
that,
skin. All that stuff.
all the
Steroids.
dehydration and the carb
Steroids.
loading and the salt
Steroids.
depletion. Yes, human growth hormones. Yes, Photoshops. No, I did it all clean. It's all legit, and it's not photoshopped or anything. People always think it's fake. It's real, but it's real in a sense that it's like good lighting and oil. These things make a big difference, which people don't understand when they argue about how it's fake. So these photos go viral. Literally, it's like every year or so, all of a sudden they blow up again for some reason or another. They just like went up pretty big on TikTok like a week or two ago. There's a video that has a few million views of just someone just with the photo. Then like making a joke about, they're saying like, I think it's just a photo, and the guy's caption is something like, "Oh, it's because he had less body parts to train."
Yeah,
the classic joke. He has less leg days to do.
Yeah, he skips legs day.
Yeah, no, that's the one people
Same
always
as
say.
me.
It's like, "Oh, he has half as many leg days." I'm like, dude, every day is leg day for me. All right, like I'm walking around one leg. It's
All
leg day
day.
all
Yeah,
the
that's good.
time. Right? So don't tell me about like half as many leg days. Although I get the joke. I get it. So as far as, do I regret it? I mean, here's the thing. So the photo has often been, I would say, co-opted into a what I would describe as disability porn type meme. Yeah, right. Where it's like a popular version of it has those photos, and then underneath the caption is like, excuses, let's hear your excuse again, or let's hear yours, or something like that. Something to that effect. And which a lot of people evidently find this sort of content inspiring. I wouldn't say it personally offends me, but however, I disagree with it. I would never say that, because in my mind, actually, I don't know, there's plenty of valid excuses why you can't look like a professional bodybuilder. Like, you know what I mean? Like, not everybody has the time to do that. Some people are single parents working 3 jobs to put food on the table for their children. Some people have disabilities that prevent them from doing that level of physical activity. There's all kinds of entirely valid excuses. So, I don't regret doing the photos. I won the contest. It paid for my grad school. Awesome. What I wish hadn't happened is I wish that sort of meme wouldn't be made and popularized about it, because I do think that sends the wrong sort of message, not only about like what excuses, or like, what might be a valid limitation on your physical activity, but also in general, of course, and I'm sure you guys have addressed disability or inspiration porn much on the podcast. And generally, like, obviously, I don't like that. I do not support that. I do not want I do not want people to be inspired by disability per se. Although I recognize it happens, right? It's like, Dylan, you give motivational speeches. You know how it is. Like, I gave a speech yesterday to a few hundred people. I know some of those people walked away and they're like, you know what? That dude has one leg and he's doing his life. So that's inspiring. Just that he has one leg. And I feel better about myself now. It's like, is that the message I wanted them to have? No. Did I say anything to suggest that to them? No. But some people just see me and that's the message they're going to take. And I can't change that. So like,
you can't control that. Exactly. You can't control that. Exactly right. And you know what the guy said? I did a few yesterday, a few talks. And the guy goes to me after, goes, do you know what you've proven? That the only disability is a bad attitude. And I said, do you know what else is a disability? Paraplegia. Like, no, that's just legit. He literally said it after I spoke. Yeah. And I went, I don't think you heard what I'm like, nah, I'm in a wheelchair still. Like, that is definitely a disability as well. I was like, you bloody idiot.
Yeah. Oh, right.
Hey, Josh, totally. we got to wrap this, but where do you want to be, mate? What's next? Do you want to be a writer, actor? Like, what does the future look like for you? Where do you want to see yourself?
Yeah, dude, these are the same questions I ask myself over and over when I lie in bed awake at night and talk to my therapist about, which I need to talk to your therapist. So it'd be great. This is good therapy here. I think, so it's like, I'm working on all those things. I got a lot of hustles going. I think what interests me most now, I'm really intrigued by acting. I'm starting to do more of that. But I've always liked writing, and I feel like since I was a child, I loved writing. And I feel like that's always going to be the core piece. And in that sense, broadly, storytelling, right? I'm always like doing some kind of storytelling. So, we'll see where this Apple show leads, right? This is the biggest thing I've ever done by far, right? It's like everything before me is just writing books by myself, making videos by myself. This show is like, we had over 200 people on our cast and crew. We spent tens of millions of dollars making this show. It's in over 100 countries, right? The scale of it is so much bigger than anything I've ever done. So I'm curious to see, like, where does that lead? What opportunities will this show create for me to hopefully make people laugh, share stories, as you guys talk about, normalize disability. Overall, I feel like I want to put, as a storyteller, is writing books and future shows, is like, I want to put people with disabilities, and in my case, people with limb differences, into genres we haven't seen them before. That's what I'm about, right? It's like, great, we got an amputee kid leading a kid's comedy. Awesome. Like, I'm voicing a character in an animated show that's like an action thing. Awesome. Love putting an amputee in that genre. And now it's like, where else can I put amputees? In like, what other genres can we start seeing them that we haven't
Cool,
seen
love
before?
It. If you ever need a 31-year-old actor in a wheelchair from Australia who can do half good accents, you know where to come. All right?
Perfect.
I'm
love that.
If you're listening to this, you got a streaming service, bin it. Download Apple Plus, of course, Apple TV Plus. That's where you can get Best Foot Forward. It is available now. It is really funny. If you've enjoyed this chat, you're going to love the TV show. A big thank you to you, Josh Sundquist. We do appreciate you coming on the show, for one, sharing your story, but also for the masses in 100 different countries as well. Bringing this story, based on your life, is going to open up a lot of people and normalise disability, mate. And it means a lot to us and I'm sure the community.
Good on you, Brazzy.
Hey, my pleasure, guys. This was so fun.